This is PROT, the extension that I've been spending the last 2 years kind of developing and researching and trying to build, and it's finally at a state where I feel comfortable releasing version 1. It's version 1, so it's still broken, but it's going to be less broken than iOS 26, which is kind of nuts.
You're gonna love my nuts. Watch this.
I decided to create a simple guide so that you could navigate it and understand how all of this works. And it's going to be quite a bit longer than the first video. It's unscripted, and it's basically just a simple guide that you can follow through if you're interested, or if you want additional information on how it works and how to navigate the website and everything, because it is going to evolve into an ecosystem. Right now, it's mostly just the extension with the login functionality on the website. So I wanted to explain how everything works, because I know that, the first video might create some questions, and those questions lead to you coming here and, boom, bada bing. The extension is incredibly simple. I would suggest pinning it, because I operate it with it pinned. It's far easier to operate it when it's pinned. If it's not pinned, you're going to be dealing with, oh my fucking god, Brave. So pinning the extension is the best method. I usually keep it first, because it's the fastest, and we're going to go through everything on the extension to start off with, so that you understand exactly how to navigate everything. So the first thing is the header. The header has 5 active buttons. The logo is an active button. The logo will take you directly to the website. In the future, this will take you to your dashboard if you're a Pro or a Plus user, where you'll have your tracked contracts. Now you have 4 other active buttons. First, the account button will take you directly to the login page, where you can log in to your account, or you can create an account. Remember, if you are not planning on upgrading, don't create an account. You can use it for free, which is kind of the whole point of the privacy, that we want to ensure that you have the option to use it anonymously. So you don't need to have an account, but if you do want to have an account, you can. Now, the other pages on the website on the extension are quite simple. We have a Buy Me a Coffee page. If you want to donate to help support the development of PROT, you can. There's obviously a massive description here of everything that we've built, and it's the same description as on the website. We've just added that as optional. If people want to anonymously donate, if they don't want to have an account or whatever, it's just there. Next important thing that we have is the settings page. The settings page, you can customize what detections actually come up. So I'll show you this. If we turn off nuclear detections, we click Save Changes, you'll see that it doesn't come up. This is a contract with nuclear detections. I won't show the company, and it doesn't have the nuclear detections if you turn it off. So you can, if you're a lawyer and you don't really want the nuclear detections, you don't need to have them on. This works for all of these: low risk, medium, high, and nuclear. Display options, so you can turn off the notifications. I wouldn't do that if I were you. If you have Pro or Plus, I wouldn't turn off notifications. It's the only way to access the full reports for now. As soon as they come up, it's the only button we have for that, because I tried to fit a button in the header and it wasn't clean enough, so I just got rid of it for UI. So we reduced the functionality for the beauty, okay? It looks maxing. So I typically keep just everything on, but yeah, you can turn off notifications. Highlight problematic text. So this is what happens is when it does a scan, it highlights the text on the HTML. You can hover over it and get a tooltip and a little explanation. This is all for free. This is part of the free plan. I'm not logged in right now to my admin account, so this is all for free. Highlights it automatically on the page. Now you may, if you're on a really cheap computer, you may have performance issues with this, but I've tested it on both of my computers, one of which is like 7 years old. If I can run it on that motherfucker, trust me, you can run this, okay? But yeah, I mean, if you have like a Chromebook or something, you might want to turn this off. Next, we have the browser badge counter. So this is, you can actually turn off the ability to show this. So if I apply the changes, go back here, refresh page, you'll see that it won't. Never mind, that's broken. Don't worry, everything works. Next, we have 2 analysis things. So dynamic content analysis, it analyzes the content that loads after the page initializes, which is kind of essential for modern applications, because some pages have like animations, some pages will show text using JS, some pages will load HTML later using JS. This is our attempt to combat some of the like more modern website designs that wasn't detecting. And then finally is performance mode. Now performance mode is important because I designed it such that it turns off the star background for all of the major PROT extension pages, which is just the extension, the settings page, and the report page, which we'll see very, very shortly. I obviously have a GPU, so I don't fucking care. The final button at the top is the premium page. This you can instantly upgrade your premium, but we'll talk about that in a second, because it's a little bit different with how the plans work. Now, in the center, this is where you have the most of your information. I've designed it to be as sort of graphically intuitive as possible. So if I open up a terms of service, we get this little notification. You can just dismiss it. Again, I suggest keeping it because that's the only way to access the full reports. You have a simple summary of what's going on. You have the framework concerns. So the reason I've added the framework concerns is because sometimes you have terms that are more interesting under financial frameworks. You have terms that are interesting under consumer protection frameworks. So the consumer protection framework is ACL, CRA, and 9313 WC, and it's typically terms that will apply, or typically terms that would be interesting to people in all of those jurisdictions, because even though there are differences and there are minute differences between all of them, they do have the sort of fundamental three core concepts, which is power differential between you and the company, the litigation lockout, which is your inability to actually receive a remedy or them trying to limit your ability to receive a remedy, and then remedy risk, which is actually the remedy refunds, stuff like that. Those are like the three things that they try to combat, and so that's why also the heat map, which we'll later see, is designed that way. The extension is simple. Scroll down in the main extension to see all of the display, and then you can also scroll down through each of the individual terms. Now, most of these will navigate, some of them don't navigate. This is actually a perfect example. So this is the explicit detection, and this is the standalone detection. The standalone detection navigated, the explicit detection didn't. This is detecting the whole sentence. The explicit, but the no warranty standalone is detecting just this part, which is why we can navigate to it. Then we have unilateral termination, so you can navigate to these two. These work. You can navigate to the no refunds, and you should also be able to navigate to both of the yellow detections, which is implicit use. Yeah, there we go. So you can navigate on like 80% of the detections that come up on a contract. You can auto navigate to. Obviously, nuclear detections include combined terms, so usually when there's a combination of multiple terms, which you won't be able to navigate to because it's multiple terms. And there's only one nuclear term that doesn't have navigation, and that is survival of liability. But I am altering that, and it does have a different color on the page, so you can find it very quickly. It's a much darker red. It's not like a pink color, so you can find it. It's just that I'm still building out the auto navigation to actually fully function. The three bottom links are incredibly important. So limitations is the first one. These are the known limitations of the extension. So obviously it's regex based. There are false positives and negatives. Language and formatting, so it is optimized for English language documents. Some services load TOS content dynamically afterwards or behind login walls, so it can only really scan what's available at the time that it opens the link, right? Jurisdictional coverage, it is based on Australian law, and it is one of the strongest, and there are similarities to the EU and the UK, but local niche regulations in Southeast Asia, in LATAM, or in the EU will have differences. So it's just important to understand that there is majority jurisdictional coverage, and we are trying to make it as functional as possible for as many people as possible, but there will be niche rules that PROT cannot always account for, because it does get complicated when you go down into all of the niche elements. Obviously, consumer protection law is constantly evolving. There was recently an update to the ACL, and I do try and keep up with it, but as the company grows, we'll be able to keep up with it far better. It's just that right now, because it's me developing it on my own, I've tried to focus on the most fundamental things that could be a risk to you as a user. Now, it's designed specifically for TOSs and end user license agreements. Software license agreements are very, very similar, so it's still useful for software license agreements and other tech contracts, but obviously it's not built to analyze employment contracts, NDAs, financial agreements, tenancy documents, or other contract types, because the legal frameworks are completely different, and they're also far more complicated. They differ literally by state, and even here in Australia, there's a different regulation for the city than there is for the rest of the state. So it gets very, very complicated very, very quickly with international regulations for things like tenancy documents. So we haven't been able to, I just decided to ignore the rest of the contracts for now and just focus on what will be most important to consumers in the tech space. And obviously this is not legal enforcement, it's not legal advice, it's just surfacing the terms and the wording that is most common. It's not automatically unenforceable. Enforceability is determined by courts only. It's not determined by us. So it surfaces the risk so you're aware of it, but I cannot predict, and it cannot predict or guarantee legal outcomes. The next link in the extension is the roadmap. If we click through to the roadmap, you'll see what's coming for the future. So we have a couple of plans coming. The AI insights and contract monitoring is what I'm talking about, right? What I've been talking about recently. The AI insights will basically be able to give context. It will be the first 100 characters and 100 characters after a detection. So it should be able to analyze a little bit of context as to whether or not the term is riskier or less risky for a user. Again, it's educational. AI is not a lawyer, so it's to make it smarter, to make you understand more. Because the detections are obviously regex based. And this is not going to affect any of the normal scanning that we're already doing, so it's just going to be context. And it will be available for free for pro users, and then I also want to add in the ability to buy detections for plus users so you can use it as you go, so the costs are lower. And it's not locked behind having to upgrade. Because again, like the central reason behind this is just accessibility. Contract monitoring, so there's going to be a dashboard for Plus and Pro users. For Plus users, you'll be able to see when a contract is updated, and for Pro users, you'll be able to get the diff for the HTML, so you'll be able to see what has been changed much faster. And you can follow, I want to design it so you can follow like up to 5 contracts on Plus and 15 or 20 on Pro, so you can really follow as many contracts as you want to. So if you're using a product that your entire family uses, or if your children play a video game, you can understand what the contractual changes have been when they update their contracts. And that might be useful for parents, that'll be useful for you, that'll be useful for YouTubers, that'll be useful for anybody who runs a small business. It'll be useful for all of those people. And it allows you to sort of have an insurance where if something's changed, you know that you'll be immediately notified and you can review it immediately. And you'll know exactly what has changed as well. And so you can make a decision as to whether or not you want to continue using a service. Finally, the personal and family plans are tied to the desktop client, so they will be coming later. And then we also have a look into the future. So we want to be able to eventually offer a service to report a situation to us and then have it be reviewed, but we're not 100% sure on how that's going to work, or how we could even do that functionally. To work with consumer protection enforcement agencies and NGOs, we obviously want to be able to work as much as possible with the institutions that already exist to make it as accurate as possible and to make it as good as possible for both consumers and professionals. So whether or not those relationships develop is going to be a completely different discussion in the future. And as PROT matures, obviously feature roll down, we want to add more and more features to Plus and Pro users, and then obviously move down some features to free users. So what today is a Pro feature may be a free feature in a year from now. So that's the goal with PROT. Now, the third important link is the About link. If you click through the About link, you can see how it works. This is basically just going to explain what PROT is, what we stand for, and obviously it's just me, so yeah, we are a small team. We will hopefully have a team that develops very, very shortly to be able to build as much as possible and to be able to update as much as possible to give you the most value. And then finally, our final link is Get Help. So this is the resource page. It does have technically worldwide coverage, but I'm not 100% knowledgeable of every single enforcement agency. But I've added the ones that I know and the ones that I was able to research relatively quickly. So obviously you have Australia with the ACCC, the actual ACL, the law. You can file an issue with the ACCC, and then obviously you have fair trading for New South Wales, which is the biggest state by population. So I've added that there too. New Zealand, literally the exact same thing. You have the Fair Trading Act, you can make a complaint, consumer protection, resources, and then obviously the actual regulator. The US, we've added the FTC, consumer protection laws, report of fraud. Now, obviously the US is far more complicated because every single individual state has its own consumer law, so you'll have to read through that. I'm sorry that you don't have like a system that's easy to understand. Canada also has some differences, but I've added that there. So you have your resources, your handbook, so you understand your rights. There's the European Union, so you actually have the EU Commission portal. You have 9313 which is the directive on unfair contract terms. You have the ECC net, which is, what's the best way to explain the ECC net? It's the collection of enforcement agencies that exist within EU member states. Is that the right way to word that? I think it's the right way to word that. And then obviously you have the online dispute resolution. A lot of these agencies have online dispute resolution portals. The UK, you have the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA. You have the Consumer Rights Act of the CRA, which CMA and CRA, yes, that's literally the acronyms of 2015. So you can read your rights under UK laws. Citizens advice, which is really useful. I contacted Citizens advice, but I obviously, because I'm a UK citizen as well as Australian. But if you're living in the UK, it's for people who are actually currently living in the UK or own property in the UK, because you need to have a UK address. Finally, we have the three that I'm not 100% sure on, but I've tried to add as much information as possible. So you have Latin America, you have the RCPEC, which is the Regional Consumer Protection Network of Latin America. I believe it's the sort of combination of all of the different, it's the combination of all of the different member states of LATAM. You can see there are so many offices that they have. Website needs an update, but that's fine. You have the organization in Mexico, the organization in Argentina, and in Brazil too. So this is the Argentinian Consumer Defense. Sorry, I know I have to use translate because I don't speak the language, and then if there's not something here, we'll expand these as we go, and we'll try and get as many of them in here as possible. So there's just like one place that you can go and instantly see and be able to search for your country. The search does function, so if I search international, you can see that we have the international. I actually contacted both the ICPE and the TACD. They're very active and they do respond to consumer complaints. They are NGOs though, so you do need to have more of a like legal report. But those were the two that were able to get back to me. Obviously, UNCTAD is the international one that sort of sets a lot of the standards that a lot of countries are moving towards, and it's based in Switzerland. And then you have the OECD as well. This is the Alliance of Southeast Asian Nations, and this is mostly Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. These are like the three largest ones, but you can also just go through ASEAN itself. There are 10 member states, I believe. This is going to be like your general Southeast Asian portal for consumer protections. And then obviously you have South Asia, which is probably the biggest one and one of the biggest English-speaking areas, which is obviously India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. We really want to make it sort of as international as possible and support as many areas as possible so that you understand, so that you have available to you in one place where you can go, to make it far easier to just find the resources that you are protected by. So that's the get help. Obviously, we can't provide help because we're not a law firm and we're not an enforcement agency. We're simply a tech company that wants to try and make transparency as easy as possible. So these are all the government organizations that you can contact. Some other important points, the homepage, when these buttons currently don't work. If you click add to Chrome, it'll just take you to the Chrome web store page, because it has not been verified yet. You can read through on the homepage how everything functions. And then we obviously have the additional links here. We've already touched on about roadmap limitations, resources. We have the privacy policy in terms of service. And finally, you have reports. So if there's a detection that's been missed by PROT, you can report a missed detection, the link, the detection type. Don't worry, this is going to look different by the time you see this, and the legislative framework as well. And then if you want a new term as well, you can select type if known, and if it's something that's not part of PROT's system already and you found a new term that should be caught because it's common, then you can also add your report details here. Now we do want to focus on consumer protection law, so we're going to focus on consumer protection law, and later on with the mobile app and desktop client we'll add in terms that you can detect in NDAs and things. But that's a far later project. Right now, we're just focused on consumer protection law for the digital communities to make it far easier to understand your rights. Obviously, now you can see we have a completely different set of colors. The gold is to upgrade to Pro, so if you click on this, you'll actually see that your current plan is selected, and then you have your upgrade to Web Pro here, and you can cancel your subscription by clicking this button. It's instantaneous, it just cancels it in the background. The way that it works though is you will continue seeing this button for 14 days because the free trial is still 14 days. So if you cancel before the free trial, know that you won't be billed, but you will see it until that free trial ends. And that is the same with Pro. Obviously, the main thing that Plus unlocks is 2 of the full reports a day. You'll see that here. It resets every 24 hours and you unlock recursive risk, but obviously the heat mapping is for Pro, and then you can read through everything here. These obviously, with Plus, you have far more details. You can read the full description, the legal context, the red flags that you should watch out for. These are like surrounding things, so if it's flagged something, the red flags are what you should definitely look out for. You have the real world implications, so this will give you like a simulated situation, so you can understand, you know, if your situation matches this, it might be useful for you. And then you also have the edge cases and exceptions, which sort of give you an idea of how legal exceptions work if you're a consumer. So even though something is flagged, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's unconscionable for a company to do. It doesn't necessarily mean it's unfair for a company to do. If it's critical to the operation of their business, for example, it's something that could be fine. And then obviously you have the Pro features, which is the downloadable JSONs and PDF at the bottom. And then obviously big legal disclaimer because it is not legal advice. You use 2 a day. Now I do have to be completely honest with you. The only way that this is tracked is when the page is open. So if you generate a report, close, and then generate again, that will be 2, just so you are aware, because that's how it's tracked for now. That's how it's iterated. Apart from the full analysis reports, that's the only real difference between Plus and Free. The main thing with this is obviously recursive risk, so you can see the difference between 2 different contracts, and you might make a decision whether or not you want to use a product based on recursive risk. And then obviously your larger explanations for educational reasons, which are incredibly useful. It might help you understand and build your reports to the ACCC. The final plan is the Pro plan, which is the gold plan. What you'll notice is in all of these, Free, the premium button was blue. In Pro, in Plus, the premium button was gold, and obviously gold is Pro, so it's the maximum subscription. If you like collecting fucking icons, I guess you would care about that. Pro is obviously the maximum one. This is going to have the free AI insights very, very shortly. It's the one that has all of the data analysis, the risk heat mapping, so you can see what the relative risk is within a contract. Obviously, this is only 6 detections and a low recursive risk, so this is basically just on what type of detections are considered, what type of detections are found, and it's done mostly by the number of detections. So this is like a ratio between the 3 types, and that is everything. That's how you use the extension, the website. This will automatically update. It lasts about an hour, and then it will automatically log you out, so you can stay logged in for about an hour at a time. We do that to combat some things, but also just because we want to make sure that the extension's actually updating, because it uses a combination of local storage and Supabase calls to ensure that premium is all updated. So yeah, that's PROT. Simple to use, relatively easy to understand, and hopefully it helps with understandings, and hopefully it helps with speeding up workflows. I am obviously updating it every single day, so there's a lot that is happening in the background, and there will be updates that are pushed. And if you do have issues with the performance of the browser extension, you can obviously enable performance mode. Performance mode does not enable it on the website. So the website is naturally going to have the star background. You can also contact us on general or support@protsec.app, general@protsec.app. Additionally, there's going to be a Firefox variant. It's just probably going to take longer to verify than Chrome, because Chrome has sort of, and then the mobile app and desktop client will have their own individual ecosystems. And yeah, we want to make it as powerful as possible over the next year. And I thought, as a version 1 build, this is perfect for people starting out, and it's only going to get better from now on. So there are some things that are broken, but I could polish it until it's literally shiny. But I think it's more important that this is accessible and available faster, and then we can update things and make everything better as we go.